Hey, everybody, welcome to the Thriving Lives podcast, our weekly Zoom call. Today's topic is talking about finding our staples. We kind of talked about, um, Chrissy, your comments and stuff down here, and it throw me all off. How do you know, Maddie? Oh, she
We
did.
taught together.
That's right. That's right. Did you know Krista was in here?
I saw her name. I was looking at the
Okay.
participants. I was just about to say
Yeah.
hi.
There you go. There you go. Chris is over here throwing me off already with her comments in the chat, but I appreciate it. It's cool to see. It's always cool to see, different people that already know each other in the group. But anywho, what was I talking about, Renee? Help me out here. A little scatterbrain today.
Staples
Staples,
on
staples. We're
things that
talking
we
about,
do daily. Mine are kind
yes.
of daily. I think
Yeah.
you have some that are weekly, or
Yeah,
Nicole,
yeah.
I know were weekly at one time.
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago we talked about finding our staples when it comes to our food, like our go-to meals, our go-to snacks on hand. This is kind of an extension of that, but looking not just at nutrition, but what are our normal controllables? I think I talk about that exact topic more than anything through check-ins, through the Zoom call and things of that nature. So controlling the controllables, and so that comes back to what are our staples, and your staples should kind of evolve over time. So if you're very, very new into starting, lifestyle changes, you're going to have a couple staples. And then over the course of time, once you've been doing this long enough and things are, have turned into actual full-blown habits for yourself, and they become easy, then it's easy to add on more and more and more of those staples. So Renee, I know you already had a little list that we were going to talk about ahead of the Zoom call,
hmm
kind of go over what your current staples are and maybe how that list has also evolved over the course of time.
Yeah, so my list has this is my list as of right now, and I would say, yeah, it definitely can change over time. Um, but the things I want to get in daily, regardless if I'm having the absolute best day of my life or if I'm having the absolute worst day of my life,
Yep.
these are the things that I want to get in. So first one is going to be movement of some type,
There you go.
and either on my worst day, that may only be 10 minutes of a walk, or that may be 10 minutes of stretching, but it's something to honor my body, to move my body. On the best day for me, that looks like strength training, that looks like a walk, kind of a combination of um, all the above.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that gets done regardless every single day is mindset work. So ways I can reflect upon my day, reflect upon my attitude, reflect upon just my growth in general. And I'm mainly an introvert, and so I have some extroverted qualities,
I'm
but
sure you love Zoom calls and talking on them.
I know. So mainly that mindset work done is alone time for me. Sometimes that's journaling, sometimes that's just sitting there reflecting. Um,
So you,
but
you spend a little bit of time each day in thought and reflection.
yes.
Good. It's good.
And then the next couple for me are kind of a combination of protein intake. Ideally, I would strive to get 130 grams of protein a day on my worst days. On my absolute worst days, it's probably more so like 80 to 100 grams, which I don't love, but still a high enough number. On my best days, that's my protein intake is like 150 to 160 grams.
Mhm.
And all of my intake for my food, I want to be nutrient dense foods. So that means even on my worst days, I'm not just picking the foods that are absolute shitty for me. And if you're new here, I have a lot of dietary restrictions. So I physically can't just intake in like the shitty
Yeah.
processed foods. But the reason I have this on my staples as nutrient dense foods is because that's how I feel best. So I know I want to put into my body what's going to make me feel best. And then another staple I have is water intake of at least 80 ounces on my worst day. On my best day, that intake is going to be at least 128 ounces of water. Um, and then the other thing is just listening to my body. So, like yesterday, I was at the gym and I was trying to do arm and shoulder day, and I just was not in the mood. Couldn't do it, so I just stopped and went and walked on the treadmill for the rest of the time I had before I had to go to work.
Yeah.
Um, And in that time, it's not me just quitting because I don't want to lift, because I
It's
love
you
lifting.
your body, yeah.
It just is me. I was getting frustrated. I wasn't in the mood. And so that's when I just went and walked. So those are kind of my staples. Like I said, those things are going to happen every day. On the best days, those things are going to be above and beyond. But
Yeah.
on the worst days, they're going to be no less than those
Then
things happen.
those yeah, then those basics. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. So when you first, um when you first started making lifestyle changes, things of that nature, did you start with all those things? I know we kind of talked about it before. You were actually able to kind of be that person that does like a 180 flip in lifestyle and intentions and all that good stuff. Is that kind of how, did you have that staple list then, or is that something that's kind of evolved over the course of time?
No, this has definitely evolved. I would say at one point when I first started my journey, I would say that these things were weekly staples. Like at least weekly, I wanted to get in mindset work. At least weekly, I
Yeah.
wanted to get in movement, maybe 3 times.
Maybe a couple of days of
But
water.
yeah, I was kind of I wouldn't say I was very focused on water intake at that time
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
Um, when I first started, I would say my one staple was my green supplement. That's what I was
Yeah.
like, all right, doing this every single day.
Yeah.
And so definitely started out on a much smaller scale
Yeah.
than I'm at now. And I've gotten to these staples just by learning on how I feel like these are what optimize my body
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
On
And like
here,
you
I
said,
would, what?
I was gonna say, like you said, if they happen on the worst days you're having, that allows you to, at minimum, you still had a pretty solid day. Like that day alone that you just mentioned is, again, like if you go back to 2 or 3 years ago, that would have been your best day if you would have
Oh,
got
yeah.
just those few little staples in, even on the lowest side of it. Um, so again, like even your off days now, they're not setback days, they're not setback weeks. They're just, you just maintain that day at minimum. And then the
Mhm.
next day you can be happy that, hey, I had a shitty day yesterday, but in all, I did a pretty good job still. And now I feel better today. So let's go crush it even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say the only thing that I'm working on adding to these would be 7 hours minimum of sleep.
Mm.
But I don't want to necessarily put that on my staple lift list because sometimes that's just not gonna happen. Sometimes it's only gonna be 6 hours.
That was
And
going
then,
to be kind of on my list. And what I would say more, because like you said, some things you can't control. Like if you just sleep like shit, like you just slept like shit. Now we can look at, okay, was there a factor with this? Did you not do your reflection that day? Did you not have, spend some time in stillness that day to kind of calm your body, calm your mind, and things of that nature? Did you have bad caffeine intake? Did you have low water intake? Or did you eat, really late and heavy meal? We can still reflect on what caused sleep to be off of. But at the same time, it's about the other intentions about, okay, every day for the most part, because your schedule is about the same. So especially like your Monday through Friday schedule, you're going to stay pretty consistent with, I'm going to bed around X time every single day. So even if you didn't get that 7 hours of sleep, if you were intentional about the things that would allow you to get that sleep in, that's what you can actually control.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I like having to do like a wind down routine right
Mhm.
before bed. I have a little Hatch alarm clock, which is a little sunrise alarm clock,
Isn't
and
that
I
for
love it.
children? I love that.
What?
Isn't that for children?
Well, there is a baby one,
Okay,
yes.
I got you.
It's a
I got
portable one,
you. Okay.
but mine is like a little. It like sits on the
Yeah.
like your desk, and then it has a little looks like an egg, and it has sunrise colors on it. But why I love it is because at nighttime I can do like I can set up little prompts. Um, so one of my prompts that I do is like a nightly body scan. So I just lay in bed and it like goes through like each part of your body to like relax it.
Oh,
Um, and then it can tell me like sleep stories or just like music, and then it will play like a
that's
white
awesome.
noise or thunder all
That's
night.
awesome. When our
And
baby gets here, can I use that? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I think you guys have one on your registry because
We
I wanted to
we have
buy
we
it.
have one. We have one. It's set
I
up.
think you have the baby one though.
Okay, yeah.
But
I don't
yeah,
know.
someone already bought it before I could get it for you guys because I love this Hatch alarm clock.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so anyways, that's how I like to end my day.
Yeah, that's good.
Is at least allowing myself that like 5 to 10 minutes of okay, I'm actively preparing myself for sleep.
Yeah.
It's really improved my sleep along with
Sure. I'm sure
tracking
it
my
does.
sleep,
Yeah.
which I do with my little Aura ring.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, so I think those are my important things that I would say are my staples.
Yeah.
But again, they can always kind of ebb and flow.
Yeah, of course. And ultimately, while we call those, your staples, those are always for the most part going to happen. Those are going to be, life events that just knock some of those things off. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that you failed that day. It just means that, okay, let's be more intentional the following day versus just letting it, continue to fall off for the rest of the week or whatever the case is. My list is pretty much, pretty similar. I'm always going to get about 200 grams of protein in. That's easy to do, and just 3 or 4 meals for me anyway with it. So that's pretty much always going to happen. And Evan asked a question on the group as well, that which we'll come back to and ask and talk about. But protein intake is a very easy one for me. Fiber intake is one of those things as well. I put on a lot of people's diet plans, chia seeds or psyllium husk. Avocados is another one as well. Just looking at what are some very, very easy ways to get fiber in. And those are my go-tos as well. So I try to have about an avocado a day, healthy fats, good quality amount of fiber. And then same thing with the chia seeds. So between the avocado and the chia seeds, I can get an easy 25 to 30 grams of fiber just with those things, not including any other fruits or veggies or whole grains and stuff like that I eat that day. So that's always a staple of mine. Water intake, very, very easy for me. If it's not this exact cup it's like 40 ounces. That's why I like this one. But I've got some other cups or shaker bottles that I'll keep, next to the sink or whatever the case is. So every morning I start my day with at least 30 to 40 ounces of water first thing before I have anything else. So that's a very easy win for the day. It's already going to kick off digestion. And it's one of those easy check off the box like wins for the day before anything even got going. I know a lot of people, that's one of the most common struggles that I see in a lot of people, even if they're crushing on the other things. Water intake is a struggle. I'm not going to get into my tirades and rants on water, but that's a very easy thing. Have that kind of rule for yourself where the first thing that goes down is not your coffee or is not a protein shake or, whatever it is. It's that water, and go ahead and get digestion moving and flowing for the rest of the day. Plus it'll stimulate, you to go to the bathroom and things of that nature. So yeah, that water intake is crucial. So like I said, I'll do like 30 to 40 ounces before I have anything else for the day. So that is a staple of mine. And that's pretty much controllable wherever I'm at. If I go on vacation, if I'm in Vegas, first thing I do when I get there, is before I even get to my hotel room, as I'm going to my hotel, I'm stopping by CVS and I'm going to get like $50 worth of water. So I always have access to it because in Vegas, it's kind of hard to come by sometimes. But so even there or anywhere else you're at, like as long as you have that water intake on hand, that's going to really help you out, especially if you are off plan. But then ultimately I'm going to get in about a gallon a day, pretty much minimally, no matter what I'm doing, how active, how inactive I am, all that good stuff that day. Like I said before, when you were talking about sleep, my staples, especially, and again, this is one of those things where, some nights you're out doing shit and you're not going to necessarily have your quality bedtime routine, and sleep is probably going to take a hit that night for that. But again, we're talking about the days we can really, really control it. After this call right here, Wednesdays are kind of my later days in terms of like getting wound down for bed because I'm more stimulated on this call like this. But, I'll go take a shower, I'll eat some dinner and whatnot. But then something Nicole and I have been doing, and this is kind of goes hand in hand with my second staple I'm going to talk about, is we'll stretch now before we like get in bed. So like she'll stand up and do her like pregnancy stretches, and then I'll stand up and do mine as well because per my chiropractor's recommendations, I need to be stretching more so I'm not always banged up and seeing her, which we'll get into that on a different Zoom call, kind of how I'm adapting my whole workout schedule and everything like that right now. But so stretching is a thing for me that has become a staple. So every, if I'm sitting down working for a couple hours, every 30 minutes, I'm getting up, stretching out my hip flexors. It's just a couple minutes to do so, or I might even sit here instead of being in my chair, I'll just kneel, and do a hip flexor stretch. But, so stretching is one of my things, but like I said, getting to bed on time. And then you also, picking non-stimulating shows. Like I'm going to watch TV most nights before I go to bed. I probably always will. And I track my sleep. So like, it's not really affecting sleep too much, but what I'm choosing on there matters as well. So, I'm picking things that I can kind of are mindless, that I don't really have to be, very, very heavily interested in. I can start falling off to sleep. But so that's our bedtime routine, and that stays pretty consistent. And because of that, I get pretty quality sleep. Some other staples though, I mentioned the stretching already. Exercise usually would be, I have found it to be a little more difficult ever since I left teaching, because when I left teaching, getting 10,000 steps a day was easy. I was more so averaging 15 to 20,000 steps. Now that I'm not working anymore, steps have been harder to come by with me working at home and at my desk a whole lot more often. So really, like, my new goal has been, 8 to 10,000 steps. But and that gets in most days with it. But yeah, those are pretty much my main staples. What I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Supplementation. I have them right here as well. That's a very easy thing for me to get in. So I never really miss supplements. Again, that's the lowest on the totem pole of importance, but it's something that is just easy for me to not miss anymore. Now that I've been doing for so long. But I think that's about it on my staples, though. At different times, though, you mentioned being, mindful, sitting reflection and things of that nature. I love going on walks for that. I've also referred a lot of people to use this 5-minute journal. The one I always refer out is blue one, but that's a really good one. That's not a staple of mine now. But at different months throughout the year, if I'm feeling more anxious or if I'm going through just kind of a mental funk for a little while, it's a great thing to get into. Just kind of, recenter you, refocus you. And so again, that's not necessarily a staple, but I'm tossing it in there just because I think it should be a staple for a lot of people, especially if you struggle with self-efficacy, with your belief in yourself, or with, the way you look at the world, or your optimism or pessimism. So I think that should be a staple for a lot of people.
I do want to do a Zoom call on journaling too. I think that'd be a good one. I think a lot of people feel lost on like what to journal, and so
Yeah.
I've journaled for like a year and a half now. So
Awesome. Daily?
No, not daily. I used to do it daily. I used to do it every weekend. And then I would get into like kind of daily habits, but I don't do it daily.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I like that idea, though. Really, this is the extent of my journaling has really ever been. But I definitely see the power in it. I also just listened to the audiobook, the book, Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights, which I've always loved him anyway, but that was pretty cool. And just to like hear about like his journaling process with it, and how that he can obviously reflect on his life over the course of time. But let me pull up Evan's message real quick so I don't forget to ask or to talk about it. Where is it at here? It's in the group. All right. So Evan said, how important is it to hit, and we can obviously circle back to staples, but I just don't want to forget this one. How important is it to hit macros for each meal? I often find myself having to correct later in the day to hit the total macros appropriately. Marcus knows this, but for those that don't, it's not because he doesn't meal prep or plan, because he always comes into the week, prepped and fully planned out, but because his job. So he's my financial advisor. We did a call last week, actually, before the community Zoom call, and that I aired that I think last week or maybe on Monday, something like that. But right, I think it was actually 2 weeks ago. But so he says, he has, due to his job, he's often has a lot of unknown meals, meaning like he's at seminars, luncheons, networking events, so on and so forth. And sometimes he has those twice per day. So like a lunch and like even like a dinner event. So he said, he can stick to proteins as much as possible. But he can only really handle so many shakes. He's been able to correct most of these occurrences throughout the day, but I'm wondering if I have lots of carbs for breakfast and lunch, then correcting protein intake for dinner by downing a chicken breast and a protein shake together, is that okay? So essentially he's just saying that, obviously if meals are kind of off all day long, even if he's tracking and doing his best job for it, what should he do for dinner? Is it okay to kind of double up on protein? And yes, that's not necessarily something, again, we talk about what's optimal versus what's optimal for you in your given day, in your given situation. What's truly optimal is to spread that protein out, is to have about 30 to 50 grams per serving spread out over the course of the day and not super close to each other. But I would rather us break the habit of under eating and totally missing meals altogether, because that's doing damage to our metabolism. It's going to ultimately lead us to faster plateaus if we are consistently missing meals. So I would rather him in that situation have whatever meal he needs to. And if he needs to throw in a protein shake after that, then so be it. At least he's getting in his macros. Honestly, that's going to be me tonight. I had my protein shake, like just a powder all ready to go, my chia seeds in it, and I meant to have it at 5:30. I got caught up playing Frisbee with Nicole and the dog and forgot to drink it. And I still have another full meal as well. So after this call, I'm going to go eat my full meal, and then closer to bedtime, I'm going to down that protein shake. So it's not optimal, but I'm still getting in what I need to. Again, that's going to have my chia seeds in it, so I'm still getting that in. So ultimately, without forcing yourself to the point of feeling sick because you ate too much food, I'd rather us try to get all of our meals in, even if that means pushing them a little bit closer together. That's one of the other downsides to like intermittent fasting is when people try to do intermittent fasting, we still want to get in an adequate amount of calories. And so my question before switching over somebody to intermittent fasting, whether it's my request or theirs, is can you still get all of your meals in that eating window? Because it's it's tough to eat back-to-back meals, especially that are more nutrient dense and things of that nature. But yeah, so in his situation, what I would recommend he do is especially if he knows he has those networking events and things of that nature, is maybe fast up till lunchtime, maybe have a protein shake in between the two events, and then go to that dinner one. And then whenever he comes home, if he ends up saying, wow, I really was actually able to go really low on carbs and fats and just kind of stick to protein, then perfect. He has plenty of carbs and fats in his diet to be able to enjoy something else later on that night. But like I said, I'd rather us try to hit our calories versus just fall massively short. But again, if you do fall massively short, then let's just try to regroup and plan better for the next day. So I know I just kind of answered that in like 6 different ways, but it is flexible like that. There's no, we don't have to be super rigid with this. It's not about being rigid and perfect. It's about just being consistent. And then again, if we reflect on, okay, how did we go this week with our events and our planning and things of that nature, then how do we kind of move forward? How do we plan ahead a little bit better to avoid those situations? I always kind of tell him, hey, if you're going to these events, if it's weird for you to not have a meal, then yeah, have a meal and just try to pick the best things you can. If it's more like, snack foods and charcuterie board and stuff of that nature, where a lot of people are snacking and stuff like that, and it's not as weird for you to not eat, then what I recommend for him is eat your meal that you prepped and you brought with you to work that day ahead of time before you go there. And then just, do your best to control things. And if you end up kind of giving a little bit, and you have a little more carbs and fats with whatever it is, the snack foods they have there, then just moderate what you're doing the rest of the day in terms of carbs and fats. So again, flexibility is key. Adaptability is key. Being able to pivot as needed is key in all this stuff. And if you're too hypercritical, it can lead to just unneeded stress that doesn't really serve you by just trying to be super perfect. Thoughts on that, Renee, or anybody else? Also, we'd love to hear anybody else's staples, because again, we're all at different places in our journeys with it. So again, like my staples, like it's very easy to have 10 different things that I do on a consistent basis, but somebody who's a little bit newer, maybe you can't do exactly that on a
I think so. I posted about this on Instagram the other day, and the other thing I followed up by saying this was, I'm 26 and I'm a single person. So with these things that I have prioritized these in my day to follow them. I don't have children running around that I need to take care of. However, even I think if you are super
Yep.
busy, have children, things like of those natures, I think it still depends upon what you prioritize. So again, don't look at me and think, oh my God, she does it all, because I prioritize my independence to kind of do it all.
Yeah.
However, I think there's definitely give and take when you have a more demanding
Of course.
life.
Well, without throwing Chris on the spot, make her talk right now. She's a good example of this. We talk about this a lot, even here on the Zoom calls. She is a mom of 2 little ones under the age of like 3, I believe, and she's a teacher of 25 fifth graders. So she's the mom for the other 8 hours of the day for a bunch of 5th graders. So that's a very, very difficult situation she's got going on with that. She has other obligations and duties outside of just being a mom and a teacher. And so during this season of her life, there's a lot of times where I'm saying, hey, let's just focus on getting your staples of nutrition. You're getting your meal prep done, you're eating, you're sticking mainly to your meals or whatever the case is with it. You are getting your water intake. You are trying to get to bed at night, but again, you have a first and two little ones at home, so that might not always be possible. Chris, it looks like you unmuted yourself if you want to talk.
Yeah, I was thinking that your overview is so good, but I was going to give people some details of like how you've helped me, specifically like backtracking on my sleep. Okay, when's going to be your wind down time? We know your kids' sleep schedule. Like, walk me through your evening, and like helping me plan that was really helpful.
Yeah.
And I set an alarm because I would just stay up and work because, in education now it feels like that to-do list is never ending and you're not getting to the bottom of it. And then same thing with water intake, like making sure that I was refilling my water before getting in the car. And I have a commute, so making sure that I'm drinking water. Okay, thanks. Through each commute. And then we gradually evolved my snacks. Like back when I first started, I was like, okay, I'm just eating so I'm not starving and making poor choices at meals. So here's a chewy granola bar. But then when you start getting better about watching your macros, you're like, okay, and we're going to start doing better snacks and things that are healthier. And then it kind of pushed me to like, okay, if the lounge is that far away, like, are you going to get a mini fridge and kind of like break the rules? Are you going to pack a lunch with ice packs? And so
Yeah.
I have like through having those conversations, I've made better workarounds for my daily staples. And they've grown and evolved over time, which has been nice through our check-ins and conversations. Like just getting my wheels turning, like, okay, I know the direction I want to go, but sometimes it takes me like a week or two of thinking about whatever
Yeah.
we've discussed to make things better.
Yeah, we got to be super creative because life is so evolving and ever changing. We got to be creative about what it is and really look at. And this is why communication is so key, and that's why when I ask you those questions, you give me the detail that I need to be able to at least toss out solutions. They might not all work for you, but the biggest key with it is that we toss out solutions. We develop a game plan for this coming week, and then we go put that into play and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then okay, how do we need to adapt? Again, like I'm not a wizard, neither of you. Like, we're not just going to get it nailed down perfectly every single time right off the bat. It takes a lot of collaboration with this. So Maddie, Madeline, you guys are new here as well. This is the biggest take home with this is that is a collaborative approach. I'm not a dictator telling you all the things you need to do. I'm giving you the best plan to follow, but then we're going to have to adapt that as needed over the course of time. Allison on here, Dexter on here, we have changed things multiple different times depending on your needs and things of that nature. So it's a collaborative approach with it. And as long as we can talk about what your schedule is, what are the struggles that you're going with, then we can adapt from there and make it work. And if that means we need to pull back and maybe your staples no longer include even a walk or even a workout, or maybe they only include that 10-minute walk. It's something that is sustainable for you to be able to follow. So that way we're not adding on to your list an unrealistic expectation of you're going to get to the gym 5 times this week. Well, when you got 2 kids under the age of 3 and you've got your teaching job and all that stuff, getting there consistently like that is just not going to happen. So having that as an expectation is going to lead to you feeling very, very disappointed a lot of the times. So your staples still need to be things that, again, like on the hardest day, you can at least achieve those. And then if you can get some bonus steps in or bonus things in, then that's bonus. Thanks for your input, Krista. Anybody else have their staples they want to talk about, or any other questions pertaining to this topic or a different topic? Don't feel pressured.
I could share on my staples a little bit.
Sweet, Dexter.
So like I had to change it quite a bit, and just because I went from just being like single, little responsibility, living with my brother, to a whole lot of other things happening, and now I got a lot of responsibility. So we had to make like a lot of changes along the way. So like, at that time my staples were like water intake. I was able to get 120 ounces every day. Able to get my like full gym workouts in like 4 or 5 days a week.
These are your staples before life got hectic and tough, or these are your staples during that transition?
Before.
I got you. Yeah.
And then like the meals, I was nailing all the meals. I was like on point, but it got to a point where I had to make some changes because just a lot of things going on. It was becoming stressful and all that. So now my staples is like kind of like Renee said. I try to get 80 ounces every day. Usually that's not hard to do.
Yeah.
Some days I'm able to get that 120 like I used to.
Yeah.
As far as food, I always have at least one protein shake, and then 2 meals with a good amount of protein and carbs and a veggie or fruit.
Yeah.
And then like also like she said, and you coached me on this, trying to get like at least like 10 minutes movements because I'm sitting all day working.
Yep.
I don't go to the gym like 5 days, 6 days like I used to, but on the days that I don't go in the gym, I try to go on a walk or something like that.
Good.
Or when I'm in the gym, try to walk at least 10 minutes and get my workout done. So those are some of my stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and like you just said, you know, they kind of evolved based off the season of life that you're in, and that's just something that I feel like a lot of people don't respect is what season of life they're in, and you know, make the right adjustments depending on that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate it, Dex.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, I think we crushed the staple talk. Good stuff today, Renee. Thanks for kind of leading us on that as well with it. Everybody else though, check-in days tomorrow. Yeah, have a great rest of your guys' week. If you're listening to this, I don't even know when I'm going to post this, tomorrow or Monday or something. Hopefully you guys have a good day as well, but yeah, have a great weekend. Go Chiefs, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.